Hi and welcome to an episode of Meet the Makers here on Block News. My name is Rebecca Hope and today we're being joined by Dean McClelland, the CEO and founder of Tontine Trust. Welcome, Dean.
Hi, Rebecca. Great to be here.
It's great to have you here. Now, you have a really interesting history in investment banking and working with tech IPOs since 1994, but now you've just launched your own trust called Tontine Trust, which is essentially a kind of blockchain insurance.
Yeah, basically what we're doing is we're reinventing the old mutual society. You know, before corporations and insurance companies took over financial services, you know, the whole world had this mutual trust society where, you know, people club together to be able to finance things. And this is how everybody used to operate. But that's been replaced by financial institutions. And we're talking about taking that back, bringing back the old mutual societies and making it absolutely secure and transparent using blockchain.
Okay, so you deal with a certain kind of insurance, so not all insurance, not health insurance, but longevity insurance, which is essentially what?
Well, actually, there's some great people doing stuff in insurance, such as I think Ether Risk and stuff like that. But the specific area we focused on is, you would know as longevity insurance, but to a large extent, it's basically pensions. Yeah, we've created a pension system. To quote a Nobel Prize winner that I met in January this year, we've created a pension system that can never go bankrupt.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that's a bold statement to make. So let's understand why you're making that statement. Now, this is really based off the current algorithms that insurance companies have for their pensioners, which is not really in the pensioners' best interest, whereas what you have that you're offering is really enabling a better system for them to get payouts. Tell us about how that all works.
Well, think about the existing pension system, and you know, you could use the US as a good market. What's happening is that you've got all these taxpayers. You know, they're earning money every month, they're paying tax, but they're also making a contribution towards a pension fund. And if you're in the US and you're working for the government, you're paying money into a state pension fund. So there's 50, and the reason these people are paying that money into the state pension fund is that they expect that when they retire, they're going to receive a pension payment for the rest of their life, no matter how long it lives. But the problem is, all that money that's being paid into those pensions at the moment is being used to pay the people that retired 10, 20 years ago. And really, there's no funds there to pay you in 20, 30 years' time. There's no funds there to pay me in 20 years' time, because all of these pension systems are virtually bankrupt. So effectively what's happening is that you're putting money into a system, you don't know where it goes, you don't know what's being used for, and most people have come to the realization they're probably not going to get a pension out of the government in 20 or 30 years' time. We're going to do something about that. Anybody that puts money into our system, you can track exactly where it's gone into, you can see where it's being invested, you can see how conservatively it's being invested, and the algorithms can show you exactly what your expected return is in 20, 30, 40, 50 years' time. And all of this can be verified on the blockchain.
Let's take a case study.
So my mother's 75. She's a member of a golf club. They've all got a reasonable amount of money. They're all aged between 65 and 85. But they're all worried that they're going to spend the money too quickly and run out of money and, you know, end up in a state nursing home or something in 20, 25 years' time. And this, you know, they managed to forget about this. And then what happens is that one of the members dies. And they say, oh, wow, you know, she was so careful with her money. Why didn't she just enjoy her life? Why didn't she just enjoy her last few years instead of being so careful? And it really distresses them. So they really think about this. And, you know, as she does, she came to me and said, you know, can't we find a solution for this? Can't you solve it? You're good at solving problems.
Yeah. And
here I am 18 months later, reinventing the whole global retirement system and being contacted by media journalists all over the world. It's I might have to give her a good Christmas present this year.
Well, I'm sure they're going to be your first users.
Yeah, exactly. You just raised an interesting point. We met a massive insurance company in Japan, and they're not involved in the life annuity business, which is the insurance version of a pension. And they steer away from it because they think that it's all the insurance companies, all the people issuing life annuities could end up going bankrupt in 10 or 20 years' time.
Yeah.
And they've been investing in nursing homes. But because the Japanese think so far ahead, they were telling me that their biggest fear is that they're going to have this multi-billion-dollar insurance business where they're going to be kicking old ladies out into the street because they've outlived their savings. So the reason they were talking to us is that our platform can effectively create a lifelong income stream that will always be able to pay the rent on the nursing home, such that nobody will ever be kicked out on the street.
Okay, and you were saying that you cannot extract the funds.
Yeah, well, it's the same with many pension funds or even many insurance products. You know that once you buy the product, you can't take it out. But effectively, tontines are a 365-year-old product. The nature of a tontine is that it's almost like buying a lottery ticket. You're buying a big lottery ticket that pays out a reward every month, and you're making a bet on yourself. Yeah, you're betting that you're going to outlive the other members in the pool. You don't know who you're in with, but you want to be the one that lives the longest, because if you live the longest, you collect that much more. So in terms of, once you enter into the system, I think within 12 to 14 years of retirement, you should have had all of your capital back, and everything after that is pure profit. And your job is just, eat right, exercise more, drink less, don't smoke, and stay alive as long as you can. Exactly.
Let's do a little comparative analysis on this point and maybe some other points as well of how you differ from the already existing model.
Yeah, so tontines existed really before life annuities, or these two things came about, 365 years ago. 150 years ago, they launched them in the US. Within a couple of months, the firm that launched it was copied. All the other insurance companies started selling tontine pensions. Within a single generation, more than half of all US households had invested in tontines, and the tontines now held more than 7.5% of US national wealth. Yeah, it was a blockbuster product. It outsold life annuities by 5 to 1. But then something funny happened. One of the founder's sons, on his 29th birthday, he threw the biggest party New York had ever seen. And they said, wow, how do you afford such an amazing party, tigers and elephants? And he said, oh, don't worry, it's on the company. And after a bit of investigation, they realized it wasn't on the company, it was being paid for out of the pension funds. Cue a massive investigation, and they realized all these insurance companies were defrauding the members and cheating the members of the tontines. They were tampering with the ledgers, moving the assets around, and basically there was a massive scandal going on with all of the insurance companies in the US. So they brought in this new legislation, and they said, listen guys, you're going to continue selling tontines. You need to be fair with the customers. Yeah, you need to treat them fairly and give them what you promised. And all the insurance companies just turned around and said, well, you know what, actually from here on in, we'll just switch to selling life annuities. Because the trick with life annuities is that in a tontine, when a member passes away, their capital gets shared with the remaining members. In a life annuity, if a member passes away, their capital goes to the shareholders of the insurance company. And that's a fundamental difference.
Is that how you're able to ensure that the payouts continue to grow? Because they grow quite exponentially, right, over the years?
Yeah. Yeah, so basically there's a wonderful article in, I think, Market Watch, where they call it a kind of guaranteed alpha. Yeah, so there's no such thing in the investment world as a guaranteed alpha. But they coined the phrase in respect of tontines. We're not going to try and be the best investment manager in the world. We are aiming to be absolutely average, low-cost index funds, diversified all across the planet. But the point is that you're in a tontine with 10,000 people, and if you are one of the lucky ones to live to later years, you're going to be benefiting from the capital of those that were not lucky enough to survive long enough. And they're going to subsidize your golden years as such. And this is why the payments keep rising.
I see. Okay, so who's all on your team? And I'm guessing that you've had some advisors also from the insurance side. So yeah, just walk us through that.
In terms of the advisory board, we've got John Matonis, who founded the Bitcoin Foundation back in 2011. We've got Jörg Platzer from Berlin, who, as well as being a monetary economist, he also owned a bar in Berlin that became the first bar in the world to sell beers for Bitcoin, and that's called Room 77. If you're ever in Berlin, I recommend checking it out. We've got Norbert who has just left AIG Japan. AIG is one of the biggest insurance companies in the world. He was a director of strategy in AIG Japan, and he's now joined us initially as an advisor. I think he'll end up having a far more significant role, but that's a conversation for a few weeks' time. And the last one is Mike Edelson. I don't know if you're a football fan at all, are you,
Not really.
Rebecca? Okay. Well, if you were, chances are you'd support Manchester United. And Mike Edelson is a friend of mine that's been a director of Manchester United for the last 30 years, since the really good times began for them. And we've been working on tech IPOs and stuff like that. And I went and met Mike last year and I said, listen, I've got something. It's going to be wonderful. It's going to change the lives of hundreds of millions of people. And I told him it was about Tontines. And Mike immediately turned around to me and said, wow. He said, my dad was a member of a Tontine. And he said, this is a long time back. This is just after World War II. He said, that Tontine company saved our family twice. The income kept coming in from the Tontine. He said, it saved our family twice. So he said, anywhere I can be involved in the project, wow. I can.
So essentially you're using an old system, but you're using it now through the blockchain technology, which is transparent, where everything can be tracked. There's no hiding of funds. There's no wondering, how things are working behind the scenes. So that's great. And then, maybe just tell us a little bit about the market that you're wanting to enter. You said that 10,000 people per day are retiring in the US. Are you looking for new retirees? Are you going to be open to people transferring?
I think that based upon the financial advisors that are contacting us now that want to work with us, they want to start offering this to newly retired people. Because as soon as they get to this point, they've got a certain amount of capital saved up, but they don't know, they need to work out how they can get a lifelong income out of it. So I'm sure the first target market will be the 10,000 people a day retiring in the US. Not sure what the number is worldwide. But according to the research we have, there's going to be an additional 400 million 60-year-olds in the next decade. They all need some sort of lifetime income or lifetime income solution. And we're the perfect product for this.
So you are running an ICO at the moment. Tell us about that ICO and your token sale and how you plan on allocating those funds.
So basically what we're doing is that, for the last 10 years, academics around the world have been trying to work out how to bring back tontines. And they had a number of issues. They said, how can we make it impossible for people to tamper with the ledgers? And how can we keep all the members anonymous to each other? And how can we make money out of it if we're not able to charge high fees? Because the idea is to make it a lowest cost fee model possible. Blockchain solves all this. So we've got immutable ledgers. All the members are anonymous to each other. And by issuing a cryptocurrency as a means of monetizing the platform, we've created this fantastic way of not only saving money in the system by using digital currency as a bridge currency for settlement, but also by using this as an incentive to financial advisors to bring their customers onto our platform and help us get hundreds of billions of assets from around the world invested in the whole solution. So we've already issued a token or a currency. Our currency is called TONS, which is on the back of my T-shirt. You can probably see it here. It's already listed on 3 Stellar platforms, and there's another 3 in process at the moment. And the idea now is that we're doing a private invitation-only pre-sale to institutional investors, targeting bringing in 40 million. After that, then we'll be rolling out a larger public sale. And the idea is that this token gives us the capital to build, one of the fastest growing asset management organizations on the planet. And embedded into the platform that we're building are use cases for this currency. We're going to be settling all the international money transfers using this. Anyone that wants to sell our product needs to go into the market and buy some tokens and lock them down in a wallet to get a license. And we basically have worked through the tokenomics in quite detail. It's This is kind of my background, working out tech IPOs and structuring everything to ensure this successful aftermarket.
And then I guess one of the big things will be for people, especially of the older generations, will be, you know, trust. And they really like their old school systems and being able to go drive down to the building wherever the insurance company is, and having to speak with somebody face to face. And I guess that is kind of an important element because it holds some sort of accountability. So do you think that those insurance brokers that you're partnering with, or those financial planners, that they will act as that kind of face-to-face engagement, or do you picture having some sort of offices around the world?
No, it's a very interesting question, actually. I think the trusted financial advisors, honest, trusted financial advisors, will serve that role for us anyway. But I spend a lot of time in Singapore and Hong Kong and cities like this, and you see these massive skyscrapers with the most opulent boardrooms you've ever seen. You know, chauffeur-driven cars outside. You know, who's paying for that? Who's paying for that? The annuity holders. You know, if you cut out all that expense, you can increase the amount you're paying to the pensioners every month. So we don't want these big buildings. We want it to be completely automated, completely transparent and decentralized onto a blockchain. But I think it is a good point that people need the human touch, and probably will do what we're doing today. You know, which is if they want to speak to someone, they can have a video call with someone in our organization rather than going to some big fancy office building in the most expensive street in one of the most expensive cities in the world.
And then lastly, so how are you guys going to monetize? Will you have some percentage on each transaction, or what?
Yeah, so we've done two things. One is that we'll charge initially a 1% per year management fee, including everything. You know, all the underlying investment management fees, the custodian fees, trustee fees, everything else that's involved. But the other thing is, when we start sending you your payment, or sending your mum her payment every month, rather than sending it to a bank that's going to charge her banking fees on whatever she's doing, we'll send it to a debit card that we've issued. And if she wants to, she can use that as a bank account. She can withdraw money from the ATM, or just go and book her holidays and pay for restaurants on the card. And the nice thing about that is that we generate revenues on that side as well.
Okay.
You know, so we have this massive amount of money being paid out every month, and we're generating revenues from the card as well as from the very low asset management fee that we charge.
Wow, it sounds like a really robust system. And I think you already have a lot of interest, so the next step will just be maintaining trust from everyone, and all your partnerships with the financial advisors. So all the best with that. I'm sure you will only have success in the future. Would you like to direct us to the site?
Yeah, so if you go to tontintrust.com, you can find tons of information there. And we've got a blog and everything else, but all the links are on tontintrust.com.
Perfect. And you should go check out the video.
Yeah, the big thing is check out the video. There's a 2-minute video, but we've already had people trying to invest millions on the platform into the tontines, just because of this silly little video. But it does explain the product very well. It's a
very good video, and it gives a lot of insight into what's really going on. So thank you so much, Dean. We're talking to Dean McClelland, the founder and CEO of Tontine Trust. Thank you for coming on our show today. This is an episode of Meet the Makers. My name is Rebecca Hope from Block News. Thank you.